What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Slanted Attic Experience. So today we have none other than Bruce joining me today for the first time. Bruce has not been on any of the previous Slanted Attic Experience podcasts, so I'm very excited to welcome him as a first-time guest. Bruce, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. Appreciate you, Tyler, for bringing me on board. I know this has been a just ongoing thing and, project that you've been working on throughout the years, and just really appreciate you having me on. And, a little bit about me, born and raised in 757 in Newport News. Shout out to all those people out there. It's one of those things where, I go back home and I just think about all the things and memories and just all the different aspects and experiences that I've got along the way have carried on. And that 757 blood, and whenever you hear somebody from the 757, they're so proud for that area. And so just want to give a huge shout out to that. But, outside of that, man, I work in finance, been doing corporate FP&A for a little bit, love music, love traveling, love just people in general and as well as connecting with others. And so I appreciate you, Tyler, for, having me on board to kick off this series. I know you've been putting a lot of work. Love to see, the growth and, also the struggle as well as you continue to figure out what your niche is in this field. So I'm ready
Yeah,
for it,
man.
man.
Yeah, man, 100%. A lot of the things that you kind of touched on are the reason why I invited you to be a guest on this show. I mean, just the fact that, we share a lot in common and we can have pure unadulterated conversation is awesome. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times that I've come through a conversation after talking to you. I'm like, damn, dude, I never thought about that before. But now, excuse me, I have a totally different perspective on, whatever we were talking about. So that's one of the things I have been very adamant about preaching so far in my last few episodes is like, say what you want. Like, I don't know, we're gonna look stuff up, and it's all to change somebody's opinion. Like, you never be satisfied with what you think, because I mean, we have infinite resources now via the internet to basically, I mean, well, it gets a little bit tricky there, but yeah, I mean, we can look up kind of whatever we want and determine these things and kind of create opinions based on factual information, which is, super awesome in this day and age. So
It's also
I just
very
wanted,
hard as well.
yes, no, totally agree, totally
You
agree.
know what I mean?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, it's hard to discern between fact and fiction a lot of times. So that's like one of the ways the internet slash social media is bad, but there's a lot of positives
Oh
through
yeah.
that too, technological advancement. I think we talked about Neuralink on the other podcast. That's crazy. I don't know if you saw the dude playing chess.
No, I didn't. I heard so it was a successful, obviously operation and surgery, but have not seen any follow-ups behind that. Was it something groundbreaking where he just became a full-fledged chess master or like,
No, so I think it was a quadriplegic
oh,
man
okay.
got the implant. So let me look this up so I don't want to spread any misinformation or whatever. But right
No fake
from
news in
but
this.
from exactly. But from what I understand, the guy got a Neuralink transplant. He was one of the first to receive it. They'd only been practicing it on, I want to say, like goats and lambs or stuff like that. I don't know
Hmm.
what brain symmetry is close to humans, but I'm sure they were trying
Right.
to figure out the neural pathways on something like that. But anyway, he's the first person to successfully get it as a human, and he was using his brain to play chess on like the computer. So he's able to send the signals for the chess pieces to move, without touching the screen or moving a piece or clicking a button or anything like that. So that was kind of wild.
Wow, that's like groundbreaking, man. Like, especially just in that field, being able to, create movement and thought through the mind is just that's just like next level stuff, right? Like I'm just trying to think of another example of how like just doing your day-to-day job, like I feel like those people that may not had that ability before may be able to
Right.
become in a workforce, perspective or be in a quality of life that is better for them to actually interact with people on a more frequent, better basis, which I think is really cool.
Oh, 100%, man. It's super crazy science, and I think that's kind of the way we are trending towards in the future. Of course, I do think we should be rather careful of how far we progress into
Yeah,
that specific trajectory. But I mean, if we can regulate the industry and figure out, real things that can help humans have a better quality of life, higher level medicines. I mean, it's kind of tough with the current I don't want to say setup, but like current climate we have with the pharmaceutical industry and how much they push stuff, to people and to doctors so they can turn a profit, right? I think this
right.
is huge. It's interesting that Elon Musk is kind of at the head of it because we've seen very blatantly on news shows that he doesn't like his advertisers, which I support, but I still think the guy is a little bit out there. Not
For
not to
sure.
say I don't not to say I don't like him or hate him or anything like that, but smart, very smart person. I'll just do that. All right, so I'm gonna just read this article from popularscience.com. Okay, so it says the first human patient to reportedly receive Neuralink's wireless brain computer interface (BCI) appeared to demonstrate the device's early capabilities during a company live stream on X on Wednesday night. Elon stated the experimental medicine procedure was completed, but neither he nor his controversial medical startup had offered evidence of the results until yesterday evening's 9-minute video. First volunteers 29-year-old Nolan Arball from Texas, who dislocated his C4 and C5 vertebrae during a driving accident in 2016, permanently paralyzing him below the shoulders. During the live stream, Arball appears to be playing online chess as a Neuralink BCI implant translates his brain activity into actionable computer inputs.
It's pretty
All right, we
wild.
should be streaming live here. Hello, world. How's it going out there? My name is Bliss, and I'm
on a cursor, and I could get it to move wherever I wanted. Just stare somewhere in the screen, and it would move where I wanted it to, which was such a wild experience.
This
The
guy wants
first
to
time
know
it
if you
happened.
feel like a wizard.
Yeah, right. It's it's crazy. It really is. It's so cool. I'm so freaking lucky to be a part of this and stuff. I mean, I just every day it seems like we're learning new stuff, and I just can't even describe. And through
Possible for you.
See him play
yeah,
chess.
so one of the
Yeah,
big
I know. I want to
things
see it actually in
honestly
That's what I'm
was
action.
trying to.
that
Oh,
as I think I just got checkmated. Um, the only way I could play it was through
you see that? The
pad, and
pieces
that
are
didn't
moving.
allow me to play online at all.
I think
So
it's a
that
little
kind of
buffering
sucked to
on my
begin with.
side.
Yeah, me
Um,
too.
but I
So is it
yeah
essentially
I
that he is controlling in his mind where, like, for instance, oh, I want my pawn to go two spaces or a space, like it's
Yes.
able to register on the computer that specific move and chess piece in
Yeah.
that
So,
location?
okay. Here's where we're gonna go off on a little bit of a limb and try to explain what I think. Kind
All
of is what's
right.
going on, and I think I'm gonna get probably about 70%. I think is a pretty safe bet. So, you know how neurons fire, and they run in electricity, some
Yep.
sort of electrical network, right? So basically, they implant the chip, and it can send those neurons and brain activity to a CPU or a computer that can process it and then translate it into, I don't know if it's binary code or like code exactly so the computer can understand what to do um,
Mm-hmm.
with that information. So basically, they're learning how to translate thought and like human reaction from the brain into, you know, into something, I guess, quantifiable, which is crazy to think about,
That is
you know?
wild. I'm
Right.
just trying to think of like how is that actually happening? Like, is it
Crazy
connected? So that
science.
means the chip, is it the chip connected within the computer? Like, if I have a chip in
It's
my
pro
head, does that mean I could go to any computer and start doing this? Or it has to be a specific device that is registered within my
right.
network? Or is it a Bluetooth? Those are the questions that I'm asking. Because, like, what if I'm like
Absolutely.
on a phone and then somebody's signal hits me and I'm like,
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't
Right.
know. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, and it's not that far along yet, and I don't think we'll see consumer product for quite some time. I think they're going to
Yeah.
use it in the medical industry to kind of help, quadriplegics and paraplegics regain ability to, become a more functioning member of society, right?
Right. I
And
think
I
that
think
makes
that's
sense.
that's such an awesome thing. It's such a cool thing to do.
Right. I think it would be really good from like a rehab standpoint, right?
Yes.
Especially people maybe from a stroke standpoint or who have obviously, become paralyzed like that person right there in that video. So I think, yeah, to your point, a lot of test trials, I definitely see, a lot of positives. Of course, you always have the negatives, right? Getting hacked, it messing up some part of your
Right.
brain or other part of the bodies, but that's with everything, right? Any medicine, anything that we do, there's going to be potential side effects, right? But if the,
Yes.
benefits outweigh it, then, and it's not necessarily taking people out, then why not? I'm all for
Right.
that type of stuff. And I think that's the advancement that we're going to be seeing right in our lifetime. Like when I think about every day and just the progression of technology when we went from as kids seeing a dial up connection, being able to have high speed internet on a phone, like even within our lifetime, right? And like
Right.
we're millennials, barely like, Gen Z type, and like that's not that far. And like look at the progression. And now that, with AI and, machine learning and what is coming to play, like it's just going to create a whole nother field and just, I don't know, just dynamics of how we do our day to day life, which is going to be really, really cool. But also at some point, you think about what's happening, there needs to be some sort of, I don't know if it's necessarily a regulation, but there needs to be some sort of guards because I think right now it's the Wild Wild West when I think about what is being released, what is being out there. I don't know if it's necessarily a government entity, but I think there needs to be some sort of, I don't know. I don't know what
Yeah.
capacity that is. Just because I think it's already getting crazy when I think about the deep fakes and all this
Yes.
stuff. Like,
Totally.
right, right now they're doing like obviously I think with I think the photos they're trying to say, oh, this is machine generated or AI generated, which is good. But when you think about really pivotal times, like even this year, right, with elections, that's going to be a big issue
Yes.
if you have
Yeah.
stuff like that going around. But cool
100%.
stuff though.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I 100% to your point there. I think there should be some sort of regulatory authority or some sort of system that can regulate that sort of thing. But I think the problem with that is we see it all the time now within politics, within like super large mega corporations. People
Right.
take advantage of that shit, man. And
Yeah.
then what happens to everybody else? Everybody else kind of loses out because these few people take advantage of the system, gamify it, and then everybody else gets the residual effect. I think that's what
Yeah.
we're seeing with social media right now, right? Like all these companies are, I don't know their total asset value or their net worth, but I mean it's got to be billions and billions and billions of dollars in these social media networks, Meta, Snapchat, even Reddit just IPO'd. But they're spreading not necessarily misinformation. They're feeding us content to either confirm or deny what we're thinking. It's a very linear thing, right? You can't get out there and speak like we're doing this virtually, but I mean we tend to have these types of conversations quite often when we see each other, right? But like through the social media field, you can kind of create a fake account and say whatever the hell you want,
Yeah.
berate somebody, all that kind of stuff. And people are seeing this at a younger and younger age. And, I'm not sure that has a positive impact on the younger generation in today's society, right?
Yeah,
So,
like, and it's interesting too because I think I want to say Florida this week actually
yeah.
made a law that I forgot. I think it was 16 or I don't know.
Hmm.
It's basically a teenage age where you're only allowed to get it when you reach it, right? So I think
Right.
there's definitely going to be things that are going to be more widespread as we continue on. And obviously there's going to be bypass like everything,
Yes.
like you could say, oh, I'm older than your age, but I think they're working toward it. I just think at some point these companies have become so big and they know you more than you know yourself.
Yes.
Like I just think about the things that come through all my different feeds, like within not even like hours, it's within minutes. I'm talking about a subject and I'm already getting an advertisement
Yes.
directly related to what I just discussed.
Yes.
And I wasn't even typing anything. And so that's the
Right.
things where it's the scary part. And I know that a lot of these media companies, that's how they generate a lot of their money, off the digital advert and just basically data that we as users, are able to feed to various other companies that want to buy their data. So they know exactly what type of people want to buy these certain products. But at the same time, I don't know. It's just there needs to be something, and I don't know if there's ever going to be a correction. To be honest, like I just don't know. Just as we see, like I mean, every single news social media page, like they're getting our data, and like I
Yep.
know companies are doing better with not releasing, third party cookies, and like I know companies are making conscientious efforts of, not allowing the data being widespread as it was, 5 or 10 years ago. I
Sure.
know Apple's been big on that, but yeah, man, it's I don't
Yep.
know what that looks like, 5, 10 years from now, exactly like what Meta, what, Instagram, TikTok, especially with TikTok nowadays, with it being potentially being, bought by US, either closing down. Like I know that's a really big security threat when we think about, obviously who owns
Yeah.
it, and having all that user data definitely can be something that could be used for good and also could be used for bad.
Right. 100%. And kind of to go back to your point from the beginning about there needed to be some sort of regulation there. Are we too far gone? I think we still have a chance to correct that before it gets worse. As we get deeper and deeper into the machine learning AI stuff, and start learning more about the internet and what it can do and how it drives dopamine rush and other human interaction with it. I think we definitely have a period here that we can do something about it. And although, like, I may agree with these kids 16 and under, not be having access to it, do you really think the best thing to do to a 16-year-old teenager is to say, you can't have this, we're going to ban you from it? What's that going to make them do? You know what I mean? Like, I think
Yeah,
that's
it's gonna
going to
make them
drive.
want it more,
Exactly. So I think that's kind of the flawed execution of what's going on. Although I tend to agree with the larger kind of idea behind it. I mean, as soon as you're an adult, dude, I don't give a shit what you do. You do whatever you want. Like that's the whole point of America, in my opinion, right? Like you can kind of do whatever you want. I mean, okay,
Yeah.
there's limitations, but you
I
get
was
what I'm
like, there's a
saying.
lot. Yeah, no, I
You
totally get
understand what I
what you're
mean?
saying. Yeah, and like, I mean, when I just think about as a kid, just what we were doing as teenagers versus what is happening now. Like,
Yeah.
I think we had MySpace, AOL, and then Facebook was really popping off. But like, I think to your point, when can we go back to, connecting not only from, a digital standpoint, but in person perspective? I think that's the piece where I think has value and also can be able to try to get us on that track as far as, not necessarily constantly being fed reinforced information, like you said, from a digital social media perspective. And I think having the connection point and being able to see people beyond, your algorithm, I think is so valuable in everything that we do. And I know that went a little off topic, but I
Sure.
think that is a big piece in this equation of trying to combat as far as, this deep rabbit hole that we continue to dive ourselves into, just because we're seeing it become a lot more, I would say, just polarized as far as what we believe, what we think, who we interact with. And I know you've seen the value of just traveling around and just experiencing different things, different cultures. And I think that's something that it's not getting lost because I know it's being there, and I don't want to be one of those like people like, oh, like we need to go back to the old days. It's like, no, like it's just a new
Right.
form and a new, idea as far as how we're connecting to people. And that's the premise of social media, right? It's getting
Yes.
people from all across the world, all across, the cities and everywhere to be able to say and have a conversation with, connect to somebody that you can't necessarily reach right away. And I think that's the premise. And I think if we're going back to those, principles, I think, we can do something better. But
Yeah,
to your point, we just don't know. It's just like a lot of it's in flux, and I think there is some possibility, right? But I think
sure.
going back to the basics is very key.
Absolutely. And something I'd kind of like to compare it to, although it's not necessarily the order of the same magnitude or even in the same ballpark. I mean, think of the US's electrical grid, right? Our infrastructure system here. If somebody plans like a cyber attack on some of that shit, we're done. I mean, we
Yeah.
our entire grid system is down. I kind of wanted to reference that because that's what I see in 5 years with these AI regulations and internet regulations and stuff like that. If we don't take action soon or start to develop a plan, we're going to get the infrastructure system we have now. We're going to haphazardly throw it together because that's, it's all the time we have, and we procrastinated until the last very possible minute, and that's what we get out of it, right? So I kind of wanted to compare those two things, even though they're not really that similar. But I think that analogy kind of reflects accurately my view or point on the regulatory frameworks question that we were talking about.
Yeah, no. And I think too with that, electrical grid standpoint, being able to have a fail-safe system when I think about, okay, if there's a situation where we completely get hacked, all of our information's out there, there needs to be some sort of, way where not all our information's out in the public, out in the world. I know there's different apps and different things that we can do on a day to day, but that's something that's very scary. Like you can see every day, like honestly, like there's so much information that's out there, which I need to do a better job just on internet, just to make sure not just none of my just personal information,
Right.
even just like a phone number or address. Like those are key points where people can really, take advantage. And that's some things that I just need to do a better job. And I know a lot of these cybersecurity companies are trying to do that, but it needs to be, I think, a little more widespread versus just from a
Yes.
corporation protecting,
Right.
data IP and so on.
Right. I mean, I think it's hard to push that to the individual consumer. Like
Yeah.
they've been, especially for, older people, they've been
Yeah.
living their entire lives without having to pay extra fucking insurance for, their
Yeah.
security and to keep their information safe, right? Why should they pay $20 a month for that, right? There's no need. But you're totally right. I think we absolutely need to broaden the horizons and maybe get a broad. Maybe we can invent an app, bro. Have to find an app developer and push it out there. I guess the VPNs are fine, but it could be marketed as like a mass security firewall prevention app. I mean, I
Yeah, I
don't know
mean, like
anything
just
like
the
it.
thought of like just the insurance aspect, and I know insurance can be very divisive for some people, but like having a data insurance, right? Making sure
Right.
that whatever you have online or just in digital platforms is being secured and covered. I mean, like when I think about everything that I do, and especially when you're, investing in various applications, putting personal information out there,
Yep.
that is something that you want to have protected. And to your point, man, an application could be something, man. We cooking on something, man. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
thinking about it, man.
I
Got me
mean, there's
thinking,
there's
bro.
there's like I used to think that all the good ideas have been taken. Well, in terms of inventing stuff, well, that may be true to some point, some aspect. There's innovation to be had at all of these things that have already been invented. That's
Right.
like my
Oh
brain's
yeah.
churning about all that stuff all the time. Like, what if they have this for that, but it only works because I'm doing this all the time, or like it's helpful in this industry. A lot of times somebody's already create something for that space, but it just it helps me feel more invigorated, I guess, about having a new idea and being able to market that and implement it in the future,
Yeah, I
type
mean,
of
the
deal.
the thing
Yeah.
about it is a lot of the stuff we see, it's just reinventing the wheel in a different way, right? It's
Right.
enhancing it, making it more efficient, making it better quality, making it more widespread, A lot of the things, I'm just trying to think of it, just a recent thing that I've seen. I mean, just like the whole liquid death, movement with having water in an aluminum can, being more environmental friendly, but having it in a can versus a plastic bottle. Like it's just a simple thing and simple concept of water, which has been around since the beginning of our civilization, just completely revamped, rebranded, and
Yep.
now it's a whole new product that, is being really successful and continues to, be, all throughout various, concert venues, on grocery stores. And I know it's just something that it holds true to me because like I remember going to the festival and drinking those and it was the only option. But I'm like, man, this is a great idea. And it's a simple concept of canning water.
It's a great alternative too, I think, for sustainability of the earth itself. I mean,
Right.
don't get me going. I could talk about that for a while, but I mean, why can't we use small initiatives like swapping plastic for aluminum that can be recycled, right? Because
Yeah.
it would be an added cost to these companies that are already making lots and lots of money. But, that's how it works at a large scale, right? You got to make lots and lots of money because you got lots of people to pay, you got lots of overhead, you got lots of assets you're tied up in. I mean, I can't imagine the financial sheets for something as large as kind of what we're talking about. I mean,
Oh my God, it's astronomical when you think about all the materials, the raw materials, the labor, everything involved in it. It's ridiculous. And that's why a lot of these companies unfortunately don't go down that route of having higher quality things or just having a more sustainable route is because it's more money. And at the end of the day, you're trying to reach your fiduciary duty
yep.
of maximizing shareholder value. And so that's the big thing that a lot of companies deal with, and they have the pressure of the board, their stock member, stock excuse me, people. Is like it's
Right.
a mess, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and like we've been talking about that, but not in as much detail, I'm sorry, as as probably you and I could get into it, or you much more than me because you've been in those scenarios. You've probably given presentations about the quarterly report of a rundown of how your company's doing, right? Something like that, which I've never done that. Is kind of to my point. But like we were talking about the massive asset value, the massive markets that these huge corporations are taking up and basically sucking up a lot of small businesses, a lot of um, what's kind of what I'm looking for. Maybe like vocational school jobs, like very blue collar stuff. It's
Hmm.
getting replaced by um, more autonomous. Oh man, I can't think of the word right now. Like processes or like
Right, right.
stuff like that, right? They're getting replaced easily by these mega corporations that can afford to invest $200 million into a concrete laying robot, right? That's just an example. I don't think it costs that much, but they can innovate. They have a huge R&D budget that they can, use to cut costs in other fields, I guess. I don't know if I was
Yeah.
explaining that correctly. You correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I got the
Yeah, no,
general
I mean
gist.
that's exactly right. When you think about like a lot of the budgets and what companies are dealing with, right? Like obviously you have your profit and loss, your top line revenue, then your bottom line with whatever it be EBITDA, adjusted EBITDA, net income, and so on. But you got to think about what makes up, that statement. And a lot of times, a lot of these revenue generators that we're seeing, potentially either slow down or for whatever reason, not pop as much as you want. You have your expense side, which a lot of those costs that you're referring to may be one of those things where in the short term may hurt me, but the long term is going to save me X amount of dollars for having an automated machine, software, whatever, right person. And so a lot of those smaller companies you're talking about, I mean, consolidation has been happening for years and years and years since we think about the Industrial Revolution with the railroads, right, being all consolidated. And I think we see it and we really don't realize how consolidated things are until you actually do your research, right? Like I know, hopefully everybody knows that when you go to a grocery store, most of the times you're only really buying from five different companies, right? And so, like, that is happening across all the different industries. And it's interesting to see, various antitrust, I don't know what the exact word is, but the blocking that is happening for some companies acquiring. I know what was it? I think was it the JetBlue Spirit merger?
Is it
Let me make sure.
Frontier and Spirit?
Was it? Yeah,
The
it might have been Frontier and Spirit. I want to
Oh,
definitely
I'm
not quote
seeing
myself.
JetBlue. Announced a definitive merger agreement under which JetBlue will acquire Spirit for 33.50 per share
Yeah,
in
and so they
cash.
were, yeah, exactly. So that was supposed to happen, but I think it got blocked for whatever reason because of airline consolidation. But when you think about all the rest of the airlines, whether it be American, Delta, Southwest, they've been doing it for years. So it's just so
Yes.
interesting how they pick and choose. And that's things that I want to understand more, just as just obviously being in finance, like, is something that is interesting, but also as an everyday person, like, what are the things that are causing certain deals to go through versus not, right? And to your point, though, the consolidation is just really hurting a lot of these small local businesses. Just to bring the point around, I mean, when you think about, like, just going into just, I don't know, just going back home, like, I've noticed that there's been certain mall strips, not the businesses that were thriving as much as they used to be, right? And so a lot of that, unfortunately, for whatever reason, could be, I don't want to go to the list of things that can happen to those businesses, but oftentimes it's, bigger players coming into a spot and taking
Right.
over.
I mean, probably the best example of that is Amazon. You don't
Yeah.
even have to leave your house anymore to get something within 2 days. Pretty much anything you could ever want to order online, like to get delivered to your house, Amazon can provide that service for you.
Yeah, it's unreal. I mean, within a day, and
Oh
sometimes
yeah,
in
they
the
have the
same
one. They
day.
have the same day. Yeah, I forgot about
In
that. They have the
DC,
same day
man, like,
delivery.
it's popping. I'm like, yo, just being able to order something online and same day delivery, like, that is mind blowing to me.
Oh
And I
yeah,
think they're talking about, I think it's somewhere in Northern Virginia, they're talking about using drones. Not, I don't know if it's necessarily Amazon, but just the fact that they're using drones to just deliver things, that's going to be even more efficient with some of the things that we're going to be seeing from, shipping and carrying. So
yeah, yeah. The
it's,
whole supply chain network is hopefully going to get better because we saw how a global shutdown like COVID could really impact something like that. It's crazy to think about, like one industry all of a sudden over. Like you're not doing anything. You can't get into other countries, you can't pass through their waterways, you
yep,
can't, you know, like all of a sudden boom, zero, basically flatline. And then they eventually put the AED on it, shocked it back up, right? But I
right.
mean, it was kind of crazy to watch happen. I mean, I'm glad I was old enough to kind of understand the gravity of the situation there with everything that was going on. You know what I
Oh
mean?
my God, there was a shortage of everything, like semis. Like, I mean, when you think about all these companies now that are thriving, like, there was huge issues 4 years ago of, like, just being able to get, you know, chips, whether it be for, like, a computer, cars, like, it was insane. And that's
Yeah.
just one example, right? There were so many other things that were impacted. And, when we think about the pandemic itself, like, just the fact that everything completely shut down was something that, I think back on, and it's definitely some things that, like, I think, wow, it wasn't that long ago, but, like, just
Right.
wild to think that that's what our life was, not being able to interact, not being able to touch anybody, go outside, interact with a group of like 7 people. I still think back on it, and, like, it's just it just blows my mind that we
Oh
dealt
yeah.
with that in our lifetime. I mean, like, people were talking about the Spanish flu and all this stuff, and, like, obviously you're reading the textbooks and you're like, oh, that's never going to really happen, and then you have something like that that hits you right in the face,
Right.
like the turn of the 20th
Right.
20s. It's
And
wild.
yeah, and to think that like a World Health Organization had supposed to been preparing for something like that for quite some time. I mean, hadn't they I don't want to get too far into this because it kind of segues, from what we were originally talking about,
Yeah.
but I thought they were supposed to have a plan for something like this in place. So the World Health Organization, they were doing research on, viral diseases for many years. So I would have
Yeah.
liked to see something a little bit better out of our government system, in response to an emergency crisis like that, in general, But it is what it is,
Here
man.
we
I mean, we
are.
lived through it, and I did learn a lot of stuff. It did it
Yeah.
did it did show us a lot of stuff about, like we were talking about the supply chain, how the government interacts with us, media, you know, tons of different things. So it was kind of very interesting and cool. But then again, I don't know, man. Missed all the human interaction. It really fucked me up for a little bit of time.
Yeah, no. And just like the point that I really want to bring home is like not having that backup plan and that fail safe. Like I
Right.
feel like we think most of the time there's always a backup plan, but I feel like not everybody like, plans for, a lot of the different scenarios. And I know it's a very unique scenario, but
Right.
I think
Sure.
with AI and, more technology, it's going to allow us to be, able to plan different scenarios, all types of scenarios, whether it be, realistic to very abstract. And I think that's going to help a lot of the decision making and things that we see just to bring a circle with that technology. But yeah, the
Sure.
pandemic, the things that I loved the most about it, unfortunately, well, not love, but I would say like just being able to appreciate, what you have. I think that is something that I got a renewed sense, which I don't know if I necessarily would have gotten it just during that time, just given that life was just changing, going from college to your first job, that's a whole different dynamic and a different location and so on. But
Yep.
yeah, it definitely, is a pivotal event in our lives that we'll talk about for the rest of our lives.
I know it's crazy, man. It happened what, like 4 years ago now. We're still talking about it like it was 3 months ago, and that
I know.
that just shows how impactful it was to the general population. I think.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know how we're gonna segue to anything else, but yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Well, we can move on to something that I've been wanting to talk about. That's on our link sheet slash topic sheet. I'm wearing the hat.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
ready for it. So I got all of his statistics pulled up. I'm gonna share
Oh my
that.
goodness. Please. One thing that I forgot about was the fact that he won 7 MVPs.
Yeah,
Do
let's look at
you
the
know how
MVPs from this.
crazy that is?
Dude, that look back to back to back to back
Four
to back
times.
MVP, back to back to back to back to back to back. Wait, oh wait, MVP one is when he won it.
MVP one is your
Back to
number
back.
one in the vote. But the fact that he was in the MVP vote consistently in the top, like I
Was
would say
that for
five on average
14 years?
in a row, like
Dude.
something crazy. And he won.
Yeah.
Did he win three in the Pirates or two? I think he might have won.
He only won two because did he get traded or he went to San Francisco
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
'93 and he won that year as well. I mean, look at that. 458 on base percentage, 677 slugging,
I mean,
365 total bases. I mean, this year he had 411.
and the thing about Barry Bonds, obviously the controversy behind him, with the steroids and all that movement. But the biggest thing that, I've talked, especially with my dad and I, because we're huge baseball fans, is the fact that his hand-eye coordination was like no other. There would be times where he only received one pitch, and that one pitch would be a home run or basically a extra base hit. Like those are the things that I think people didn't appreciate about him. And I don't know, man. Like there's this one clip I have it on the links because I'm a Yankees fan, and when I saw him hit that home run to right field, it was like 2002. I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I was just mind blown that somebody
Dude.
was able to just do that. Like
I
it
mean,
was. It was
oh,
magical. It was majestic. Like it's just
yeah.
something unreal.
Yeah, and like it's unfortunate that the latter like end of his career got tainted by the steroid usage. And I encourage everybody that hasn't seen Long Gone Summer on ESPN 30 for 30. Highly recommend. It's about the home run race between McGuire and Bonds. I think was it in like 2000, 2001? He hit 73 in 2001. So right around
I
that
think it
time
was
is
yeah.
probably when it was. But they go a little bit into the steroid usage and stuff like that, and then all like, although I do think, it's against the league's testing policy, shouldn't be allowed to do it. He claimed that he didn't know that it was wrong at the time, but everybody's juicing, man. It's
Oh,
hard.
everybody.
You know what I mean? So it's hard to separate yourself from the crowd if you're not doing it as well. And once you become good and become a notable name, they're going to want to tear you down for that. So
Yeah, exactly. it was so widespread too, like baseball, football,
Right.
everyday life, as some people, security guards, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
like steroid use back in the 90s. I'm sure there's documentaries about it and
I'm
statistics about
sure.
it, but like it was so commonplace, like to your point, like everybody was doing it, so it was the norm, right? Like it was the
Hmm.
new baseline. And I have always been a purist when it comes to, making sure that people that did it the right way should be awarded the right way. But
Yes.
when it comes to somebody like this, like you still have to hit the ball. Like, yes, it may give you, extra 50 feet, making it up. I don't know what exactly statistical difference it does to you, but the hardest part is hitting the ball, having that hand-eye coordination. And on top of it, too, when you think about his earlier part of his career, I mean, like that alone could have put him in the Hall of Fame. You think about the Pirates years. I mean, I'm
Yes.
not sure how many gold gloves he won or if he did win, but like him on the defense was crazy. Him stealing bases, which I don't know if they have those up, but like, come on now. Like, he was the complete tool. Like, he had everything.
Oh yeah. Well, he only won 3 Gold Gloves with the Pirates, and then proceeded to win a Gold Glove in one, two, three, four, five seasons out of 6, and then he won a Silver Slugger basically every year.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
dude,
come on.
and he leads all time in intentional walks. He leads all
Yes.
time in walks and all time in home run. I mean, dude, the guy is hitting a career 298 in 22 seasons in the MLB. That is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah. And like the thing people don't realize that they were walking him, intentionally walking him with bases loaded.
Oh,
You know
absolutely.
that is crazy when that was happening, right? Like
100%. This year he got intentionally walked 120 times. What was that? 2004? Gee.
that's so many.
Dude, and
Question for
he
you,
hit
did
362. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Did the Pirates go to the playoffs during those years that he was on the team?
Probably
Do you
not. The
know?
Pirates have always been terrible. Let me look that up though.
Nah, man, they've had some teams. Roberto Clemente, come on, man. They had something. They weren't
Yeah.
total duds.
Yeah, let's see. Champsforchumps.com. 138 seasons, 17 made playoffs. Championship years, we won a championship. We won the pennant, 1909, although some of them are getting a little bit outdated.
Yeah.
1909, 1925,
What was that team called?
1960.
It wasn't called the was it called the Pirates?
Uh, yes. In
Okay.
1891, the team changed their name to the Pittsburgh Pirates. So
Okay.
they were the Pittsburgh Alleghenies beforehand.
Alleghenies? What is that?
Allegheny would be I think it's a town or a river in Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
It's
Alleghenies.
it's a county in
Interesting.
Pennsylvania. Yep, yep. Um, let's see. Can you guess the best start that the Pirates ever had in a season?
You got to narrow it down to a
Like how many games they win in a row? You know what I mean? Like
win in a row.
15 and 0, 21 and 0,
Okay. In one given period, I would say 17?
10.
10?
10 and
Only
0 was our
10?
best start. And then the next
10.
best team was the 1938 Pirates, who were 7 and 0, and then the 1902 Pirates were 5 and 0, and we haven't won 5 games in a row to start the year since then.
Dang.
I'm
That's
I'm just
crazy.
giving you our woes.
Yeah.
When
No, it's
we actually we lost in the NL wild card in 2015. That was our last time. The last time
was
we
that the
won,
McCutcheon? Is
yes, that was
McCutcheon on your
McCutcheon.
team?
That's when we had Garrett Cole as well. We had
Garrett Cole.
Starling
Did you
Mark.
have was it AJ? No. Who was the
We had
pitcher that was on the
Josh Harrison. He wasn't a pitcher though.
Josh Harrison? I thought you had
Jay
another
Hay.
pitcher. It's called
Probably.
AJ
I
something.
forget. I mean, Garrett Cole's the most notable.
Yeah.
Let's see. We made the World Series 7 times and have won 5 times. Okay, so the last time we made the playoffs, 2013, we won one round. 2014, we lost first wild card game. 2015, we lost for first wild card series, and then we hadn't been to the postseason since 1992. Before that, where we lost 3 years in a row, we lost in the first round. And then before that was 79, we won the World Series. So we've won one playoff series since when we won the World Series in 1970.
Man, yeah.
So it's been,
Well,
what, 45 years?
yeah, it's
We've
been a
won one
journey for
playoff
you.
series. It's
So
all
I
right, man.
mean, but
It's all right. It's all right.
yeah, but I will say though, not necessarily related to the Pirates, but the game is definitely changing, right? I think of it being more fast paced, having the timing
Yeah.
in
Oh, yeah.
play, having more athletic players. And I think if the Pirates are able to really rebuild their system, and I don't know where they're at as far as, what the positional needs they need from whether it be pitching or whether it be on the offense side. I think like, teams are capable of doing it. It's unfortunate going back to the big markets, big companies, they're just taking over, right? And I think, you have the Yankees, shout out, love the Yankees, but
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Dodgers, the Mets, and so on.
yeah.
But another thing too, which is wild, is this whole Shohei Ohtani thing.
Yes.
Question for you.
Sure.
Did he do it? I don't know. Like a translator, like
Yeah,
it
that's
looks a little sus.
it definitely is
It
suspect.
looks a
It's
little
tough to
sus.
say. All we can do is choose to take the guy at his word or not believe him,
Right?
right? Like
Yeah,
he's this
that's true.
global icon. He could be one of the best baseball players
Yes.
since Babe
Yeah.
Ruth, right? Like
Right. Two
he's
way.
yes,
He's
he's one of
beyond
a
Babe Ruth, by the way.
oh, sure.
He's
Sure.
shattering what he's done
Oh,
statistically.
absolutely, I agree with you, but like at the time Babe Ruth was
Right.
the guy
Right.
that
Right.
he
Right.
is now, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like the LeBron and Jordan era. It's like it's different but the same but also different,
Mm-hmm.
right? But what do we choose to think with him as an icon? I feel like people idolize him too much to feel like he's a dude just like you and I are. We're people. We think in different ways, right? We react in different ways. We come from different backgrounds. But at the end of the day, a lot of us have very similar values, right?
Yeah.
I feel like the guy under a lot of media scrutiny and pressure and attention, he's going to say whatever makes him look good, whether he's telling the truth or not. So it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. You know what I mean? But I'd like to believe him. He seems like an all
Yeah.
right dude.
No. Yeah. No. You definitely want to give people the benefit of the doubt. It's just so wild that like it is so hard for any public figure to not go through some type of controversy or drama. And that's why when I think about like, LeBron, like a person like LeBron James is such an anomaly when it comes to that standpoint. Like, you know,
Sure.
at, as great as Jordan was, right? There was a lot of controversy around him, his teammates, other stuff involved in like gambling, whatever you want to talk about. But like somebody like LeBron is literally the one of the, closest thing we've seen as like a near perfect role model from, you know, being able to consistently stay with the people that has been with him since the beginning, not getting caught up in whatever drama, whether it be, PDs or whatever you want to call it, and still performing at a high caliber level to the point where he's arguably the considered the best consistently all throughout his career.
Right.
Like that's a rare thing, which is kind of wild to think, right? Just being
Yes.
like a good person and not doing anything bad
Right.
or breaking
Right.
rules.
Yeah, and I think to your point there too, I think the media learned a lot after Michael Jordan, the whole Michael Jordan thing at the tail end of his
Hmm.
career and constantly badgering him and I don't want to say drive him out of the game because I think the ending there was a little bit fuzzy as to whether he could really compete or not and whether there was drama surrounding him getting traded, everything that was going on in that particular circumstance. But I think the media definitely learned a lot from their experience with Michael Jordan and especially how people react to famous athletes and famous people like that, right? I think they're a little bit softer on Braun when he came around because they're like, well, shit, we want this guy to
Yep.
have a long career because he's so damn good, right? We need to chill out a
Yep.
little bit. And I think, although everything you said, I totally agree with, I think that's another little added tidbit that I think that helped, with his development at that time. Had there not been a Michael Jordan, would we have seen LeBron's career burn out a little bit early because he was constantly bombarded like they did with Michael Jordan? That's kind of the question I'm posing.
Yeah. I mean, he was honestly the first one really to have experienced that, right? A global
Yeah,
phenom. Like the way Jordan
right.
just was a global brand. Like I know there's certain, people and athletes all throughout our history, right? I think of like Muhammad Ali's and those type of
Yes,
people that
right.
everybody knew around the world. But like from a basketball sense, like he was it everywhere.
Yes,
Everywhere he went, he was the buzz. And to your point, when you first experience something like that, like it's just chaos, I think. And to your point, like having that pressure and constantly being bombarded by everybody everywhere you go, that gets tiring. Like
right.
especially from a mental standpoint. And I know Jordan, is tough as everybody, right? As far as like him being somebody to deal with it, but man, that's a good point. I don't know. Like I think it was definitely a different age. Maybe if um, LeBron was 10 years later, it could be completely different, right?
Sure,
Because it was
sure.
still in a period where it wasn't as widespread. And thinking about the social media boom in the like tens, I would say, like
Yep.
continuing on now, like it could have been a different story for him. But
Yeah.
early on in his career, right? And that's what a lot of the people like, you think about all these young athletes, unfortunately, making not the best decisions. It's normally part of their earlier part of their careers. And like, what if LeBron had the spotlight that early? And I know he did, but like in other aspects beyond just the high school phenom, right? Like nowadays, it's crazy. Like you have TMZ, you have all these media outlets beyond just sports looking at people like athletes, right? Because they're
Yep.
high profile people.
Right. 100%. And like, I don't mean to knock on LeBron at all for any of that stuff. I mean, totally give him credit too. I'm sure he learned a lot from that
Oh,
situation as
yeah.
well that happened to Michael Jordan. He's like, oh, maybe I need to keep my life a tad more private and just chill the fuck out and kind of stay to my own thing. And I think that's, when he absolutely exploded. I'm not trying to take away from his achievements or anything at all. It's just,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, it was probably the media doing a little less and him doing more from learning from that situation. Obviously, I don't want to speak for him, but that's what my guess would be.
Yeah, and just shout out to him as a whole, keeping
Yeah,
his circle small and bringing his circle up to success and getting to the point where they don't even need LeBron, And I just think he just did such a masterclass in that aspect. And that's something that, I feel like everybody strives for, bringing everybody part of their, neighborhood, hood, or whatever, their community to success, just like where you are. And I
yep,
just think something like that is just it goes beyond, I think for me, not only being a great, athlete, but just a great person overall, bettering his community.
yep. No, I totally agree with you. You love to get back to what grew you as a person, or what complimented you, how you learn things, right, growing up. And a lot of people love to associate with the people that make them, feel the best and comfort them and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, to your point as well, just having solid people in your corner, man, in your spot that are preaching for you, that are protecting you on sides that you don't even know what they're doing, right? Like they're not letting people get to you to ask stupid questions, to create drama, to do stuff like
Right.
that. I mean, you have to have solid people to surround you, or else, he probably wouldn't have been as successful either. I mean, there's so many things that probably went into creating that perfect situation. I mean, we'll probably never understand, you know.
Yeah, no. But to your point, like having quality people around you, it is so valuable. And
Yes.
I've come to realize too, just the mentorship aspect, the coaching aspect, and just like having somebody to vet different ideas, brainstorm, have a place where it's a safe space where you can share, be vulnerable about your
Right.
thoughts. And those are things that, I think every human is looking for, and whatever it is, right? I think we're all going through our different battles, different struggles, but
Yeah.
having that core group, that person that you can rely on is so valuable. And I'm just very blessed to be able to have those people in my life to be able
Yeah.
to guide me in the right direction. Because there's times where I deviate a little bit, do something, but when you have those people that are able to course correct you, like it makes you the best version of yourself. And
Yep.
it just goes back to showing that like just the value of friendship, relationships, family, friends,
Mm-hmm.
are everything, right? That's
Yep.
what keeps me going when I think about what is it I do, like what is my why, right? I think having somebody or having someone to look forward to care for, to
Yes.
comfort, to talk to, those are the things that keep me going. It's not necessarily, the job that I have, the material things that I have. It's more of the people around me. Just because those are the ones that are going to carry through you through time, whether it be the good times or the bad times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah, totally
it's
agree.
it's it's all
Totally
you.
agree.
It's so
Yeah, man.
important, man.
Yeah, I think us as humans, we're creatures of habit, and we really adapt to our surroundings. So I mean, the best example to say, like, if I'm stuck in a room with 12 people for a month, we're all gonna learn ideas from each other and come out more similar than ever before, right? It's all about who you surround yourself with. You're gonna be feeding off those people. If they're good people, they're good to you, and you're good back to them, and you learn that I don't want to say ethical or morally correct compass, right? Because that's also you toe the line there, right? With almost anything we talk about and say nowadays. So that's kind of tough. But like, to kind of put it that way, you surround yourself with good people, good will come to you. I totally believe in karma. I think that that's
Oh,
something
karma's
important,
huge.
right? You give to get some, and it all comes back around.
Yeah, karma's so big, man. And I just think if you spread good vibes around everything that you do, it's going to come around. And I just think
Yep.
about just the fact that, at a festival, looking down on the ground and I see a $5 bill. I asked around whose $5 bill
Yeah.
was, and nobody really gave it to me. I, of course, could have took that $5, but then I just gave it to the donation
Right.
jar that was beside me. And I just think like stuff like that, like although it's like a monetary thing, like holding the door for somebody, being
Yes.
able to say hello to somebody when you walk past them. Those are the things that I think carry on and become a snowball effect for somebody.
Yeah.
You never know what somebody's dealing with on that day. They could be having the worst day of their life, they could have the best day of their life. But the fact that you were able to acknowledge them and whatever that may be could make somebody's day. And I just noticed, just in my day to day, that's things that I look and try to do and try to notice about people and, try to conversate. And I know everybody, is not as extroverted or wants to talk. And I totally get that. Everybody has their own space and, own
Right.
vibes and what they want to carry. But being able to just do simple things just go a long way.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. I mean, yeah, I preach that too. It's like I said earlier, like that's my whole thing about the podcast. Treat others with respect. Like that's the only way you'll ever get past a what is it, small talk or a surface level
Hmm.
conversation with anybody else. I mean, how can you relate to another person? I had a long
Yeah.
discussion with one of my coworkers today about how to relate to superintendents, people on the job site in relation to like what I'm working in the office and how different people treat different topics and different subjects totally different. It's all about building relationships. It's all about learning a common ground and how to talk to somebody and not, I think okay, so let me rephrase this. I think the issue with a lot of those guys that I talk to on job sites, they spend a lot of time hearing things talked down upon them, and they
Hmm.
hate that shit, right?
Yeah.
I'm just a normal dude. I treat them exactly like that. Like it's like you and me having a conversation. I ask them how their day is. We find some common ground, and then I just talk to them. I think that's why I get along well with those kinds of people because I just treat them like somebody else I'd be having a conversation with, and I bet you
Right.
they
Just
appreciate
like
that.
anybody else.
Yeah, yeah. And it's crazy the level of respect you get from those guys just by treating them normally. It's
Yeah.
actually crazy to me. You know, you
It's
have
it's game changing, right? The fact that if you respect and give somebody their space, and I know we all come from different likes of the world, but having, that mutual understanding that we're both humans, we're both, figuring out something, whether it be from a professional setting or from a personal setting,
Right.
wherever that may be, we're all here to connect with each other.
Yes.
Um, and we have unfortunate distractions, biases, and all that in play that impact a lot of the interactions that we do on a day-to-day basis. But if you're able to, have the ability to expand beyond, your just immediate space and connect to people from whether it be from rural,
Right.
the middle, in the middle of the country or in the city or outside this country or different religion, different, race, different gender. Like, if you're able to just talk to people and have a normal conversation and just take away all the biases and things and just ask how somebody's doing, like,
Right.
it's crazy what you can learn about others that are completely different from you, which you may not have ever have talked to, just given that your previous regime, your previous, generation didn't necessarily make that first step to trying to connect to others.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. I think we live in an increasingly digital world where it becomes harder to connect
Yep.
with people. So even more so on to kind of what I was talking about, those people that aren't getting face-to-face human interaction quite as often because they're
Mm-hmm.
going home, they're swiping on Hinge or Tinder or doing something
Yep.
like that instead of going out playing intramural soccer, meeting friends
Mm-hmm.
and potential partners through stuff like that. I mean, they're just so hungry for a legitimate connection, I think, in regular space, I guess is the way I could phrase it, right? They just want to talk to somebody, man. It's that
Yeah,
simple.
it's really that simple. And I know those applications and apps like you mentioned, Tinder, Bumble, whatever, do that, in a way, but I swear there's nothing like just connecting with somebody just in person
Yep.
at a restaurant, at a bar, at anywhere venue that you have never interacted before. It is something that, like, I know for me, I get a lot of joy connecting with others, just given like I am an extroverted person. But even for an introverted person, having common ground for somebody like that, those are the things that, like, I guess I try to figure out, like, how do I make those people feel comfortable and not
Yes.
be overpowering,
Yep.
because it could be very overpowering for somebody that's like a huge extrovert that talks to somebody that's just not their style. They're very low key, even keel. I
Yeah.
think you just have to make sure you approach it in a way that's not right in your face, right? I think having the ability to, flex your style, flex your communication in certain ways, and not necessarily change who you are, because I know that's a big thing that a lot of people deal with, especially in the professional setting, changing who they are as a person because they don't feel comfortable. I think having that ability to change and adapt is very key, because everybody has different styles, right? You've interacted with a lot of people, and
Oh yeah.
how it is. Like, it's I don't know. It's interesting. Like, I've been fortunate enough to talk to a lot of people, and I've had a lot of different perspectives thrown on me, which I think is very valuable
Yeah, I
on
agree.
how I view the world. Because I never want to be a point where I never see the full side, and I know it's definitely tough nowadays, but I think you can see both sides if you're able to actively seek it yourself. It does require work,
Right.
and that's some things that not everybody is doing, right?
Yes. Yeah, and sometimes it takes a little bit of intuition too, and a
Yeah,
little bit of that extra hard work. You have to go out and
yeah,
check three sources instead of whatever one that you're autonomously scrolling and listening to, right? I mean,
yeah,
it took me that long, right, to pull up three different web pages with Barry Bond stats to verify they're real, right? You know what I mean? Like we can real time verify this information that we're seeing in front of us. Just people are too lazy to do so. I did want to say though, I really do appreciate anytime we have a conversation because of a few things that you just mentioned. Just your ability to realize and recognize that you might be coming on too aggressive to somebody else is wild to me. I think about that sometimes too, but that's just, something I think important about somebody that is intelligent as you are to be able to realize that in real time, be like, hey, maybe I need to tone it back a tad to really connect with somebody or make them understand what you're trying to convey in that certain situation. And I feel like you and I very much so connect on a level like that when we just have conversation. I mean, I swear we could talk about nothing for 30 minutes
I know. I
and
don't
still
even
have
know
a
how long this is
conversation.
going for. What time is it? Oh wow,
It's
it's
yeah,
10:17. Yeah,
it's
we
been a
are.
little over an hour.
Yeah, we're rolling. But yeah, to your point, I think it's all about matching energy. I think just
Yeah.
matching the other person's vibe is so key. And I to your point, man, we could talk about anything, and I'm pretty sure we may have talked about one of the topics that we we
Yeah, I dude, you had that great segue into one of the topics that you kind of had at the bottom. I was in my head. I was cheering for you the whole time. I was like, hell
Oh
fucking yeah,
yeah,
dude.
yeah, 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 of course.
That
And
was great.
hey, all I know is definitely for next time, we're gonna have to talk about the music, man. We have to have a
Yes.
listening party, have
Yes.
to dissect it. I really wanna get into who produced it, who is making the lyrics, obviously the artist itself, like what is the genre, like what influenced that. Like I would love to do a deep dive into an album, both of us if we can,
Yes.
just because I think
100%.
that would be so fun to do.
Yeah, I think what I was just thinking throughout the whole podcast. I think what I'm gonna do, we're gonna do one of those, probably just you and me, maybe you, me, Grace, and Hannah or something like that would be kind of fun. And then I want to have a listening party where it's like five of us and everybody brings like three songs. And then at the end of the listening party, everybody votes, which songs they like the best, and then we crown a winner for the following week, right?
Yeah.
Who brought the best three average, right? Who brought the best music. I feel like that could be a fun way. And then we could all put it together on a playlist, promote that, whatever. I think that's a good way to bring some new music to the table and, create some new playlists for me to listen to. I've been really into Pink Floyd lately, like really into Pink Floyd.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You know what? We'll get back to Pink Floyd because I definitely love the Dark Side of the Moon. But one thing we could do is create a way that we don't know who sent the songs.
Yeah, that would be
So it's
fun
in a
too.
pool where like we don't have the bias in play where like, oh,
Right.
you created a song or put a song in
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
I put a song in, but we could probably most likely tell the vibes just given how well we know each other. But
Yeah,
yeah, that would be
probably.
really interesting if we had that mixed melting pot.
Yeah, I think let's do something like that. That sounds very interesting. But yeah, man,
Yeah.
it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I think we'll
Yeah,
probably
this
cut
was
it
great.
here. I think I'll book you out in like 2 weeks if you're cool with that. I mean, this was super easy, went super fluid. I think this is one of the best ones in the history of the Slanted Attic Experience. So
Yes, sir.
no, but I think it's it's good for us to have this free form conversation because it kind of flowed naturally. Like we were able to talk about our opinions and maybe a little bit of our biases, when it comes to
Oh, of
certain
course.
things, right? That's what's going to happen. But, that's kind of what I was touching on earlier. My whole thing is for me to have guests on that we have some of the same opinions, we have some differing opinions, but let's talk about it. Like that's the whole point. Like I want to have discussions with people about whatever we disagree on and whatever we agree on. Like it's important, I think, in today's space to just be able to talk to people about anything, right? We're so sensitive when we touch these political subjects. Um, I put up my hands like I was going to name a bunch of shit, but I just said,
You're gonna name like five different
but
things, you
right,
know.
I just like
I get
it's yeah, it's grouped under the political umbrella, right? So
yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
yeah, so I
Yeah,
think
for
it's
sure,
important for
man.
everybody to express, man. There's a limit to everything, of course, but yeah, it's important for people to kind of speak their mind, and it's always important to hear somebody else's perspective because like we may have the same opinion, but you're looking at it totally different. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that could enlighten me to that, and I'll be like, oh wait, Bruce is looking at it this way, I'm looking at it this way, but like if you actually think about it,
Yeah.
type of thing. So
Yeah. No,
yeah,
and like I really appreciate you, kicking this off and I said this before, but continue putting that work in, man. I know at times it may seem daunting or something where it's like, ah, is this really working out? It's worth it.
yeah,
But I think you're doing something that you're passionate about. You're connecting with others, which you're passionate about, and you're giving others a spotlight and a perspective that they may not be able to portray to others. And so,
yeah.
just really appreciate you having me on, man. And Just looking forward to the next to come, and looking forward to hearing your other podcasts as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. Got to shout out Graham really quick because he's been pulling some weight in the editing scene.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, got to give him a quick shout out. Him and I
shout
have
out
been,
Graham,
yeah,
baby.
him and I have been rolling with it. So yeah, get ready to see a bunch of new clips and podcasts coming soon. I'll get our clips out soon, and I'll send them to you before I post them on Instagram. But thanks again, my man, and we'll see you on the next one.
Of course, take it easy.